Been a while since I've done a full length video, huh? Yeah, well, it's been a crazy few weeks working retail holiday season, new job, erratic schedule, personal shit galore, having to deal with my family briefly. But a lot of stuff going on, and my insomnia kicked up, and I was always like, just a bunch of times I wanted to get on here, but just couldn't show any emotion because just dead. Some personal things that I'm not going to get into here. In fact, there's only one person I discuss them with, the one person that I trust fully and completely, and she knows who she is because she watches this channel and knows everything about me and all my secrets, and I tell her everything, because probably the most trustworthy and honest and authentic person I've ever met, and I don't have permission to say her name, or I would, but you know who you are. Yeah. Anyway, come to the conclusion recently that us introverts and victims of narcissistic abuse, there's a lot of overlap there. People of integrity, again, overlap. We're going to be pretty broad here. Empaths, you know what I'm going to say, overlap. My point is that we must all unite and force change. The time of keeping silent and keeping intuitive thoughts and observations to ourselves, we don't have that luxury with the way the world's going. If you haven't noticed, that whole society thing and community went to shit when the World War II generation died. And they mostly, they're either infirm and in nursing homes or gone, but we're in full on, boomer last stand right now, where they're old and infirm, but they're the boomers. So they think they're forever young and that the world revolves around them until the day they die, and are doing everything to, keep that, perpetuate that 1980s greed is good, everything we touch turns to gold, everything we've done is by definition the greatest thing that ever happened because a boomer did it, and a boomer can do no wrong, and a boomer will defend a boomer. Not to get off on a tangent, but I always do. Have you ever noticed with the baby boomers that they're boomers before anything else? Before they're a parent, a brother, a sister, or before they're a firefighter, an actor, a fashion designer, an Italian American, a Cuban, French, German, what have you. They are first and foremost boomers, meaning their strongest and deepest loyalty is not to their family, not to their, the culture of their chosen profession, not to their religion, assuming they have one, not to their ethnic identity or to their nation. It is to their generation. I've noticed it. Have you? So that being said, and it does segue into my main point here, is that those of us that have integrity and are, not really corruptible, the ones that our purpose in life isn't keeping up with the Joneses, freaks of nature such as myself that want real, deep spiritual, unconditional love, where the person really is who they say they are, and you have that instant, not only sexual tension, but almost telepathic communication, that kind of thing, that deep spiritual connection that's real and not based on materialism or God forbid timing. Ugh, gross. Never date someone because they're in the right place at the right time. My advice is someone who's 37 and has many divorced friends. The ones that are married and happy, and I've said this in other videos, but I'm saying it again because it's important. There was an obstacle for that couple, be it distance, maybe someone went through a period of unemployment, and the worst one, and I don't recommend it, and I'm never getting into one again, but Yeah, it's a pretty bad love triangle. You know, the people, I don't know one married couple that's happy that their relationship started off as, well, I'm not really into this person, but they're around and people want us to go out. No, it don't work. They're always, you know, one of the happiest couples I know, she was in a bad relationship and they were friends in college and he fell in love and she couldn't get out of that relationship. And then, you know, one of his best friends that he grew up with, we won't say his name, some, you know, Italian American looking guy was visiting that weekend because he was testing to go into the fire academy and he found this douchebag and, you know, acted like a stereotype for a few minutes and the douchebag went away. And now they're happily married with 3 kids. Yeah, there we go. All boys. You know, he knows who he is because he watches this too. Things of that nature. Or the big, you know, the other like really happy couples I know is somebody moved, and 9 times out of 10 it's the guy because, you know, we don't give a fuck. You know, like you know, I've said it since I was 18 years old. I would, you know, since I was, well, younger than that, but since I was 18, I've said, you know, for unconditional love, I would move anywhere in the Anglosphere because that's the English speaking world if you don't know. And I say the Anglosphere as a realist because, let's be honest, I don't speak any other language fluently. So if the place I'm moving to doesn't speak English, it'd be very hard for me to find work. Unless, of course, you know, I somehow come into money, which segues, swear that's only my second class, segues me into my next point. Join my Patreon. The link will be down there. It's only $5 a month. And there's other levels too. You know, you want some coaching and intuitive advice and, you know, custom videos made, but please do it. You know, I know I'm a guy and you all want to throw money at women, but most of my viewership are women. And don't I give better advice? And aren't I prettier than the bartender you talk to? Or, you know, I was going to say like hairstylist, but I highly doubt that that's a male. Anyway, to the main point of the video. Those of us that fall under those categories as, you know, intuitive, empathy, integrity, work ethic, you know, like honest, decent people that don't get ahead by screwing people or by nepotism or cronyism, it's time to stop staying quiet. It's time to call out the corruption that you see, be it the good old boys club, my nemesis for the past 20 years, and I've been doing battle and I got the scars to prove it. If you don't believe me, you know, Google my name or go on the videos on the playlist or look at my Instagram and you'll see the price I paid to expose the good old boys club in the Arlington County Fire Department. Cost me my dream job. Not just there, the union blackballed me. Yeah, you know, you did. And I know you did because people ratted you out. Which is why it leads me on the path I'm on now. But anyway, the only way it's going to change is to call these people out. And the people who have to call them out are people like us that have, and you know, I've heard it, and I'm sure a lot of you listening heard it. You have those natural leadership abilities, but you don't crave power. Like you can lead, but you know, to quote a famous fictional INFJ, I don't want it. That's my bad British accent, but Jon Snow, you know, those kind of people that are capable of change and can't be corrupted. We need to step up. We also need to mentor younger people like us that we recognize that are like us because we are small in numbers. And the resources that are out there for younger people to understand themselves and to have confidence and be empowered is far greater than from when like people my age were in college, because like, you know, YouTube channels like mine and much more successful ones, yeah, not a thing back then. YouTube was in its infancy and it was like music videos and silly shit. So no more, well, we're always going to overthink, but overcome the fear. Do it anyway. Speak out anyway. Accept the consequences. Tell other people to speak out. You know, try to support other people trying to create positive change. Do not accept it is what it is as an acceptable answer, because it's not. That's fatalistic garbage. That's you surrendering your free will to a corrupt status quo just by the virtue of it being the status quo. You might as well let someone else pick who you're going to marry. You're going to do that? No. I'm sure as hell not hell. I would have been married like 3 times by now if that were the case. But that's what it's going to take to come out of this 4-decade-long, debaucherous, narcissistic, materialistic orgy that has been the boomers. And the only way we're going to not only rebuild like the sense of community, but also the sense of what I'm not going to just say America, the Western world stands for, is to realize that the days of, like different ethnic groups, like, oh, well, we're Indian Americans and we're Italian Americans and, we're Black Americans and we're, Latino Americans. No, because it's us versus the elite in this new Gilded Age with income inequality greater than that of ancient Egypt. And in fact, I get to be nerdy now. It was so bad in ancient Egypt that it took one of us, an INFJ, yes, a rebel, an INFJ who was the outcast of his family, the black sheep, who was never supposed to be pharaoh, who saw the corruption of the elites in ancient Egypt, and particularly in his case, the clergy, who were, like the lords of that time. And he closed the temples and created a new religion based around one obscure god. I am, of course, talking about my childhood, well, one of my boyhood heroes, the Pharaoh Akhenaten, the renegade pharaoh, who also valued unconditional love and married Nefertiti, who was said to be like the most beautiful woman at the time. It was way out of his league. But nevertheless, he married her and made her his equal in ruling in all aspects except one. And that one aspect was the military. And that wasn't, he basically said like, well, I've been in battle. You haven't. If you're going to like give military orders, you got to be on the front lines. And, maybe she had the opportunity to do it and said no, but in all other aspects of the kingdom, her word was equal to his. Kind of cool, huh? Lilith would be proud. But it's going to take people like that coming into power or coming into situations where they can obtain power and perhaps rally people that do have power that are remaining quiet out of some sense of, loyalty to a long broken, long outdated system, but maybe they're at a stage in their life where they want positive change, where, their family is secured financially and what they have left is this sense of legacy. Because also, as the ancient Egyptians say, the ancient Egyptians believe you die 3 times. Once when you physically die, 2 when you're lowered into the ground, and 3, the most important, and this is how you achieve immortality, when your name is spoken for the last time. So if your name, if people keep talking about you long after you're gone, you've kind of achieved immortality in a way. So there's that. I actually do know an old money couple that don't like the way things are. And, ironically enough, they would like to put me and have the ability to put me in a position of, where I can at least create change in a regional area, or at least be around people with the influence to do so. There's a catch. But of course, my fatal flaw is me being me, and by me being me being that, demisexual INFJ, which in turn, timing bad, luck bad, unmarried, no kids bad. And it's like, I can't like, it's like enough people like him, he has the charisma, but it's like when you give someone power and influence, even at a little level, the one thing they gotta have is like an heir. You can't give it to a bachelor with no kids. And they won't cross that line. So there indeed is my flaw, and they have tried. I might have been introduced to some trust fund girls that I didn't hit it off with. They were pretty, but that's not enough. Trust me, when I'm into you, you know it by how I look at you. Apparently, I lack all subtlety. But even without speaking, I'm apparently very good at nonverbal communication. So I've been told. Anyway, that is my little rant tonight. Those of us that want change and have the ability to speak to people of all different backgrounds in a way that reaches them and can bring them together. Like I did it in the fire department. I brought, female firefighters, Jewish firefighters, Hispanic firefighters, all these different Black firefighters that were all facing similar problems. It was the coalition against the good old boys, the establishment. And that is essentially what we need on a microcosm. We need a coalition of, for lack of a better term, the working class, particularly, the working class born after 1964, against the elites. Basically, the elites of all ages and the white middle class baby boomers who took it all and still want more. Notice how Biden, on his way out, he upped Social Security. I've heard for 20 years, Social Security is going to run out. But yet, there's 200, I think it's 200, but regardless, we'll say 200 more dollars a month going to the richest generation that has ever lived, but nothing being done for, Gen X is barely mentioned, but hey, Gen X, I'm giving you a shout. For Gen X, who is the first generation to be worse off than their parents, and my generation, I'm a Zennial because I'm like the very early end of millennials. That's Reagan era babies, so we're kind of like, 2/3 millennial, third Gen X. It's a bit of a hybrid, but nothing being done for us. Like they won't even listen to the fact, like some facts about like the struggles that the boomers placed on us. Like one of my favorites is, it's like, let's forget about free college. And if any boomers were out there, please explain to me how this is fair. So I went to Penn State. I went to other schools too, but we're not going to talk about the University of Toronto because scholarships and all that. But I went to Penn State as a Pennsylvania resident. So in state school, in-state student. So did my father, okay? He graduated in 78, me in 2010. So how is it that I held in my hand the papers, because he still had his papers, some of his papers from then. How is it that when I take his $1978, check 3 different inflation calculators, put them into 2010 dollars, how is it that I was paying triple? Adjusted for inflation, real money. How's that fair? And who did that? Who jacked up the cost like that? Baby boomers. They jacked up everything as soon as they got theirs. Housing, who bashed the unions, who ended pensions, all these benefits that they took advantage of as soon as like their generation was past that point in life, cut it. Who outsourced all the jobs? Baby boomers. And now they're old, they're infirm, they're decrepit, and they don't want to give up power, no matter how obviously demented they are. Look at the, demented walking death rattle in the White House. That was like that from the day he got in there, regardless of what your political views are, because I'm by no means a conservative. But they crammed that son of a bitch down our throat. Why? Because of what anything he stood for? No, he'd been a good little fucking corporate tool his entire life because he did what he was told and he was the establishment and he is Mr. Corporate Baby Boomer. Made sure they rig it so we couldn't have any change. Make sure that status quo that benefited them stays in place until the day they die. And that is our revenge. We cannot let that stay in place until they die, because they don't want the truth about just how terrible and narcissistic and greedy and depraved they have been while they're still alive. That is the ultimate revenge. Think about everything that generation did. If the truth about them comes out while they're still around, they have to face it. They can't hide from it. They know it. They know it. That's why when you call them out, they only speak in vague generalities and platitudes or quote Bob Seger lyrics, because they have no defense. Just like the narcissist has no defense. Deep down, they know what they are. They know it. And when faced with enough evidence and put and called out in the right circumstances, they can't defend it. And that's why the way to beat the system and to beat a narcissist is to destroy the status quo, the corrupt system that enables that behavior, that enables them and puts them in a position where they can use and abuse people, but they're beyond reproach. Why? Because they say so. No. You tell enough people the truth, grows and grows and grows, and it can't be ignored anymore. Can't be swept under the rug. And that's essentially what it is. You can't go along to get along. You got to be willing to argue. You got to be willing to be in uncomfortable situations. And I'll end on this because I've already ranted on for 20 minutes, but join my Patreon. No, not that. In your own life, you want to microcosm? Take chances. Don't overthink. Be willing to be rejected, be it professionally or personally, and certainly romantically, but take those risks to make your life better. Ignore the fact that it's like, well, this is improbable. This isn't how it works. It's not, what I was told it's supposed to be. Because what you were told by fucking baby boomers. It's irrelevant. Go after what you want. If the obstacles don't seem that insurmountable to you, full steam ahead. I mean, that's what I've done. Doesn't always work out, and sometimes, and this might be a me thing, but a lot of times there's third parties that their machinations intervene, and they just want to see me suffer, and they laugh. But anyway, that regardless of that, they just do it anyway. If nothing else, when you take a risk, doesn't work out, at least you can tell yourself, you don't have to worry about the what if haunting you. And I will tell you, what ifs haunt you, especially when, things aren't the way you want them to be. You think about the risk you didn't take. You don't think about the chances you took that didn't work out. I mean, yeah, occasionally they'll come up, but you'll be like, well, I did all I could do. I shot my shot. I tried, I fought, I lost, shit like that. So that is my rant. That's just supposed to be inspiring, but, coming from a guy a couple glasses of wine deep who sleeps 3 hours a night, who's a nobody, ex-firefighter, nickel and dime job, model, actor, way past his prime. But anyway, that is my rant. I hope it has been enough to make you think, even if only on a small scale. Think about what you can do, what your free will can do to not only help create positive change in your own life, but people around you. Especially if you're an empath, think about people you care about. Think about how things grow, the bigger movements get. Rome wasn't built in a day, they say. But it was the biggest empire that ever was. So, the British Empire wasn't built in a day either. The American Empire wasn't built in a day either. Yeah, I know they all fall. All of them do. Even Atlantis. Was it real? I think so, but story for another day. Anyway, please join my Patreon. Like and subscribe if you haven't. That is free, so I don't know why 3/4 of my viewers are like, no, we're not even going to subscribe to you. I don't want people to see that I listen to this guy. He's too eccentric. Coward. But anyway, I hope that helps. Embrace free will. Help create positive change. Mentor those around you. Do not accept the status quo. Accept risks and chase your own desires. Hail Ella.